Hello, Army. Just 1 minute ago, BTS arrived in Toronto, but what happened at the airport moments later was something nobody expected. The crowd suddenly erupted, cameras went everywhere, and Army couldn't believe what they were witnessing. So what exactly happened? Stay with me until the end, because the final moment may be the part you won't want to miss. And that brings us to the moment everything changed. Just moments after BTS arrived in Toronto, attention quickly shifted toward the airport. Army were already waiting, hoping to catch even the smallest glimpse of the members. Cameras were raised, phones were recording, and the atmosphere became increasingly excited. But what made this arrival so interesting wasn't simply the fact that BTS had landed. It was the reaction that followed. As more fans realized that BTS had arrived, the excitement spread almost instantly. Social media began filling with photos, short clips, and messages from fans who were trying to understand exactly what was happening. And then came the moment that caught even more attention. Something about the scene at the airport made fans stop, look again, and start asking the same question. Wait, did that really just happen? Eyes. At first, it seemed like a completely normal BTS arrival. But when fans began looking more closely at the footage and comparing different moments, they noticed details that were easy to miss the first time. That's when the conversation really started. Was it simply an ordinary airport moment that fans were excited about? Or was there something else that made this arrival so memorable? One thing was clear, within minutes, Army were talking about Toronto, and the story was only beginning. And if you think the airport arrival was already surprising, wait until you see what happened next, because that's where things became even more interesting. As the first clips from Toronto began circulating online, Army quickly noticed that this arrival was getting a very different kind of attention. Within a short time, fans were sharing screenshots, discussing what they had seen, and replaying the available footage. What initially looked like an ordinary airport arrival suddenly became a moment everyone wanted to understand. And this is where things get interesting. Instead of focusing only on BTS arriving in Toronto, fans started paying attention to the small details surrounding the scene, the reactions, the atmosphere, and the unexpected moments captured by cameras. Some fans were simply excited to see BTS in Toronto again, while others were wondering whether there was a bigger reason behind all the attention. Of course, not every theory circulating online should be treated as fact. A short clip can easily be misunderstood, especially when thousands of people are analyzing the same few seconds from different angles. But one thing was undeniable. Army were watching. And as more footage appeared, the excitement continued to grow. Then, just when fans thought the Toronto arrival was starting to calm down, another moment caught their attention. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But somehow, it became one of the moments people couldn't stop talking about. And that moment may explain why this BTS arrival became such a hot topic so quickly. So what exactly did fans notice? Let's take a closer look. Now, this is where the story gets even more interesting. As fans went back through the footage from the Toronto airport, they began paying closer attention to the moments that might have been overlooked at first. The arrival itself was already exciting, but Army weren't only watching the big moments. They were looking at the small details, the timing, the reactions, and the way everything unfolded around BTS. And naturally, that led to a wave of speculation. Some fans believed a particular moment was more meaningful than it appeared, while others pointed out that it could simply have been a normal reaction in a busy airport environment. That distinction is important. Because when a BTS moment suddenly goes viral, thousands of people can interpret the same footage in completely different ways. Still, the excitement continued. Fans began asking questions, sharing their theories, and revisiting the clips again and again. Every new post seemed to bring another reaction. And then came the part that really caught attention. A new wave of footage started appearing, giving fans another look at what happened after BTS arrived. Suddenly, the conversation wasn't just about BTS being in Toronto anymore. It was about what happened after they arrived. And if you've been following the story closely, you already know that this is the moment where things start getting even more interesting. Because the next detail may completely change how you see the entire airport moment. So stay with me, because we're about to break down exactly what fans noticed next. And this is where the Toronto story took another turn. As more fans watched the footage, attention shifted toward what happened immediately after the initial arrival. The atmosphere around BTS remained intense, with cameras capturing different moments from the scene. What made fans especially curious was how quickly the clips began spreading. One post would appear, then another. Soon, ARMY were comparing different angles and trying to piece together the sequence of events. Some fans were convinced that one particular moment stood out. Others had a much simpler explanation: BTS had just arrived, and the excitement of seeing them in Toronto naturally created a huge reaction. But regardless of which interpretation you agree with, there was one thing everyone could agree on. The arrival had captured ARMY's attention. And then, another detail began circulating. Fans noticed that the footage being shared online didn't always show the entire context. A few seconds before or after a moment could completely change how it looked. That immediately sparked even more discussion. Was there actually something unusual happening? Or were fans simply reading too much into a brief airport interaction? At this point, nobody could say for certain. But that's exactly why the moment became so fascinating. The more people talked about it, the more attention the Toronto arrival received. And just when it seemed like fans had already seen everything, another clip began making the rounds. This time, ARMY noticed something that made them pause once again. And trust me, this is the moment you definitely don't want to miss. And now we've reached the moment that made this Toronto arrival even more interesting. As fans continued watching the footage, one thing became increasingly clear: the story wasn't just about BTS landing in Toronto anymore. It was about the reaction surrounding them. Every new clip seemed to attract more attention, and ARMY began discussing the smallest details. Some fans focused on the atmosphere at the airport, while others were more interested in the individual moments captured by cameras. But there was an important reminder here. A viral clip can tell us what happened on camera, but it doesn't always tell us the full story. Without additional context, it's impossible to know exactly what someone was thinking or why a particular moment happened. And that's why this moment created so much debate. Fans had different interpretations, but everyone was watching the same thing. Then, as the footage continued circulating, another wave of reactions started appearing online. Some ARMY were simply excited. Others were surprised by how quickly the moment had gone viral. And a few fans couldn't stop replaying the footage, convinced that they had missed something the first time. That is what made this arrival so fascinating. It wasn't necessarily one huge event. It was the combination of BTS arriving, the massive fan attention, and a series of small moments that kept people talking. And just when it seemed the story couldn't get any bigger, another update began circulating from Toronto. So what happened next? That's where the story takes its most unexpected turn yet. And then came the update ARMY had been waiting for. As more information from Toronto began appearing online, the excitement surrounding BTS continued to grow. Fans who had been following the airport arrival were now waiting to see what would happen next. The interesting part was how quickly the mood changed. At first, everyone was simply celebrating BTS being in Toronto. But after the new footage started circulating, fans began connecting different moments from the arrival and discussing what they could actually confirm. Some reactions were emotional. Some were simply excited. And others were much more cautious, reminding everyone not to turn speculation into fact. That balance is important, especially when a moment becomes viral within minutes. Still, there was no denying the impact. BTS had barely arrived, yet the Toronto airport moment had already become a major topic among fans. And then something else happened. The attention started moving beyond the airport itself. Fans began wondering what BTS might do next in Toronto, and whether another unexpected moment could happen once they continued with their schedule. That question suddenly became the biggest mystery. Because the airport arrival was only the beginning. And if the reactions so far are anything to go by, Toronto may have plenty more surprises waiting for ARMY. So don't go anywhere. Because the next update could be the moment everyone has been waiting for.